is the first applicant is Crown Castle Telecommunications Tower Review. And it would have defaulted to approved had we not met earlier. And it also fits nicely with the second application, the tabled application for Cuca Studios, which, as Jeff already mentioned, is anxious to get going. So if that all works out, we'll be we are short 2 folks as of right now. We do have a quorum of 3, and we'll go through that formally in just a bit. We're short 2 because it caught 2 of our members by surprise that we moved a week earlier, unfortunately. They had other plans, but I think we'll get by. The agenda will probably be shortened at the end of some non-application things that I had hoped to get through. We'll see what we can accomplish after we get through the prioritized parts, which are the applications, of course. So at this point, Shelley, would you do a roll call to establish the quorum?
Absolutely. Member Werner,
Here.
Deputy Chair Ost,
Here.
Chairman Strott.
Here. Okay, we have 3 out of 5 as we need. We are going to skip approval of minutes. Again, it's a shortened duration between the 2 meetings. So we will skip approval of the minutes from the previous meeting on March 22nd. And we'll move right into a public hearing. But before we do that, let me explain the process to those who may not know. First thing we do is go through all of the public hearings, in this case, formally. Once they are closed, then we'll move into our resolution, or I should say our considerations and resolution as a second step for each one. So don't expect to see that immediately after the public hearing. And after all that, we'll consider any other business we have. So anything else before we get going? If not, I'll ask Shelley to read the first public hearing.
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to the provisions of the zoning law of the town of Rush in section 274A and 274B of the town law, a public hearing will be held by the planning board of the town of Rush at the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, 14543, on April 19th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to hear all persons interested in the following applications. Application 3P by Crown Castle, requesting a site plan approval and special permit for the installation of 3 antennas and ancillary equipment on existing cell tower, as well as installation of a 5 by 7 foot ground equipment pad within the existing compound. The property is located at 145 Rush West Rush Road, Rush, New York, 14543, and is zoned R30.
Probably should have asked first. Do we have a representative from Crown Castle?
Do we have Richard Zajac
Okay.
on Zoom?
Hello, Richard. Okay, good to see you. I will start by going through the feedback we have from the various departments and folks. So this is from the Monroe County Department of Planning and Development. And it says their comments are: applicants are encouraged to contact other county departments and non-county agencies to ensure all permitting requirements for this project have been satisfied. 2, New York state law has specific legal requirements for guaranteeing the use variance and can be found. Don't think that's applicable. 3, Article 25AA of the New York State Ag and Markets Law, titled Agricultural Districts, provides counties with opportunity to create ag districts. And it says, according to our review of recent aerial photographs and the agricultural district maps, this project occurs within 500 feet of land in agricultural production in Monroe County's Eastern Agricultural District. Therefore, an ag data sheet statement may be needed. For our representative, I don't think I saw an ag data sheet included. Did you determine that there was a farming within 500 feet or not?
I believe there might be. I did not make that determination. What I did want to clarify is that there are existing utility easements, 30-foot wide utility easements. And obviously we're not expanding the compound or anything. So I wanted to at least bringing up that I'm not really sure if that form is necessarily needed because we are staying within existing utility easements and because we are not expanding the compound or having any sort of impact on nearby properties. So I do have the agricultural statement, but I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that, we're not doing any work outside of the existing utility right of way, so to speak, that has been granted via the original site plan in 2002, I think, when the tower was constructed.
Okay. Robert, any comment on that?
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay, so no ag data statement is needed.
Just to note that there is a 1,700-foot trench that they are digging to put a conduit in. So along the access road. So,
If I may, just to that point real quick, I did talk to our project manager about that. I did receive the comments from MRB Group and reviewed the restoration comments on there. First Light Fiber is currently present there. They have a conduit that we are planning on utilizing. Hopefully that has not been finalized, but the goal would obviously be to utilize existing conduit so we don't have to trench. That's, as you can imagine, very costly for DISH, and they would like to avoid that if at all possible, because that is a lengthy trench. Now, that has not been 100% confirmed that that's the route that's going to go. There's still some logistics that need to be worked out with First Light in terms of utilizing their conduit. But as you can imagine, from a cost perspective, that's going to save a bunch of money if they can just go in existing conduit that's already there. So it's our customers' desire to do that. It's obviously our desire too. If a trench is needed, I will say we provided, there's a little bit of restoration detail on sheet E2 of the drawings, kind of how that would go, putting everything obviously back to grade and in place. But I will say, after talking with our project manager today, the hope and the goal by DISH and us as well is to utilize existing conduit for that connection.
that'll be good. And then I would just also remark that the any existing conduit should be also shown in, where make sure you're not digging over it for a new trench if that is required. So
So you're able to pull a conduit or a cable through 1,700 feet of conduit?
Yeah, as I understand it, the conduit is already existing. So that's something that, our construction managers are going to try to utilize that. That's the plan. Like I said, that hasn't been confirmed yet, but again, that's obviously less costly, less labor intensive, less all that stuff, as you guys can imagine, I'm sure.
You must have a strong rope or something to do that.
They typically have pull boxes they can utilize.
Oh, I see. They're able to open it up here and there. Okay, good. And it says it's just the typical thing, development of this property should be designed so it does not alter existing drainage facility used by adjacent parcels. That's about it for the county P&D department. Let's see, you did provide a short form EAF, I believe.
Yes, yep.
And I did have a couple of comments on that. Well, the two kind of unusual ones. This was the one with the bald eagle, I think.
mhm.
Which is not that unusual. And for those folks in the audience, if there's a bald eagle's nest, based on what I've seen in other applications, anywhere in the area, even if it's quite far away, it shows up on these mappers that fill out these short EAFs or long EAFs. There's a catch-22 here in that they won't let you know where the bald eagle's nest is because they don't want anybody looking for it and disturbing it. So the interesting thing is it's often flagged, but other than looking around or getting advice from other folks, you really don't know where the eagle's nest is or if there's any chance whatsoever of disturbing it because they won't let you know exactly where it is. Any comments on that?
I'll just say we have a regulatory team that monitors that, and all of our sites that are quote unquote nest sites, there's certain months out of the year, a good chunk of time when we can't do anything on the tower. It's just regulated federally that, that's nesting season and we can't touch it. And those are noted accordingly in our system. And we've got legal regulatory folks that obviously make sure that we're compliant with that, because there are laws and guidelines around that sort of stuff. I just looked in our system. This one is not flagged in our system as a nest site. I'm looking at a picture of the site right now. I don't, the picture's a little outdated, so I don't know, but it's not flagged as a nest site. So that leads me to believe that if there is an eagle nest in this area, it's not on this particular tower.
Okay, the other one that was flagged was the SHPO, an archaeological site. Do you have any comments on that?
I'm just looking at the EAF right now. I do not. Again, with this scope of work, we're not disturbing any area outside of what's already been disturbed. We're not increasing the tower height. We're not going outside of the utility easements, as I mentioned. So although that came up on the EAF, I don't think this project really applies to any sort of disturbance in that regard.
Makes sense. Everybody's agreeing. Okay. What else do we have?
I had a couple. I think it just reinforces what was in comments from MRB as far as the number 3, just filling in.
Yeah, we'll go. Should we go through the MRB?
Oh,
We can do
Okay,
that now.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's good. That's next. So it was good lead in. Thanks. Okay, so our town engineers have provided a number of comments. It says that the application appears to be complete. And within the existing fenced-in area and the conduit along existing access utility easement to the structure, as was mentioned. So here's their other comments. 1, the proposed project appears to be an unlisted action pursuant to seeker. A coordinated seeker review is not required. We will go through the part 2 and part 3 later. Regarding the short environmental assessment form, it appears that the actual location of the project is 145 West Rush Road, not 145 Rush Road. This should be reviewed and revised on the short EAF and all other application documentation, especially since the tax map ID was not referenced in the documentation to assist with the location of the project. Maybe I'll read through these and then we can go back and you can comment on them. In the B, again, about the short EAF. B, in the description of the proposed action, there is no mention of the trenching of the conduit. This should be addressed in this section. You had already mentioned that you hope not to trench, and if you do, you have provided a restoration indication. C, the information in question 3 should be completed, including the proposed disturbance for the project. It appears a disturbance will be below the 1 acre threshold for commercial, and therefore SWIP for quality and quantity is not required. However, the applicant will need to follow all New York State DEC Blue Book best practices for erosion and sediment control. Number 3, it appears from the monopole elevation sheet A2 that the existing cell tower will not be extended and only a set of antennas are proposed at approximately 102 feet above ground level. Compound improvements, including ice bridge and equipment platform, will all be contained within the existing fenced lease space. However, both power and fiber will be run outside the compound, which will require restoration. Restoration node should be added to the site plan. Again, we talked about that. Applicant should provide the town CEO with building plans for review and approval prior to issuing a building permit, or probably the building inspector, I would presume. 5, erosion and sediment control practice should be shown on the site plan portion of the plans. It should follow all New York State DEC Blue Book best practices. 6, it should be identified on the plans where the equipment will be staged. 7, a restoration detail should be provided. 8, provide a plan showing the conduit location within the access easement form. And that's it. So any more comments? Assuming we get to a resolution, we'll probably say that, you have to comply with all these requirements or at least provide your response to it. But anything you want to say now?
I think we've covered most of it. I just will to the equipment staging plan. There's enough room inside the current fenced-in compound for us to kind of stage everything within the fenced-in area. So that's the only added comment I have for that.
Okay. You have anything else?
I do.
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is a big deal or not, but all the insurances that are attached are expired.
I can get you current ones, and I'll certainly get those over before building permit. That I think April 1st, right, is the date on the liability form, and I'm sure the others. You know, I think we what was it, a month or so ago. Whenever I submitted the application, that's what we had on file. So yes, not a problem. We'll certainly get you current ones.
I didn't think it was a problem. I just want to make note that.
No, it's always a tricky time of year when those expire and April 1st rolls around. So.
I did have a question on, there was nothing in here that talked about the power of the emitters. Is that ever an issue? Just as far as, is anything influencing the anywhere near around there in the site area that would be a concern? It's just a question.
Short answer is no. Not unless someone were to leave the power on and climb the tower and get within 10 feet of the antennas or anything. They're high enough off the ground. It's non-ionizing, that there are no concerns. There's obviously regulations in terms of all that sort of stuff, and the fact that these are 102 feet off the ground really mitigates the vast majority of those. But the short answer is no. There's no concerns in terms of that.
Okay. Yeah, I did go through the structural analysis. It's just very interesting that at 109 mile per hour wind, you're deflected 7 feet. That's pretty significant. So, anyway, it was fun. But so there was nothing in here that said the existing capacity or the existing evaluation, and what is the delta for putting the proposed antenna on there? You're at 60.3%. I think that was capacity.
Oh, for the loading, the loading of the tower with the structural capacity. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
I'm just curious, how much are you increasing that? Your existing is around 50%. You're just increasing it to 60, something on that order of magnitude.
Yeah, I don't know what the current existing is per se, but I know that structural is run to take into account the dish equipment. So I don't have it in front of me, but if it says 60%, then that's what it will be with the added dish equipment. We've had situations in the past on separate towers, as you might imagine, where they want to add dish equipment, and that would push that number over 100%. And then obviously we're failing, and we've got to kind of figure out modifications to do. We have run into that, a number of times with different sites, and so we got to make modifications. Our engineers, that's how they make their money, is figuring out how do we get this to be compliant, obviously. So that number you see is with the proposed addition.
No, that's the first time I've looked at the cell tower calcs and everything. So just very interesting how that's done. Okay, that's all I have.
Jeff Warner on the phone. Do you have anything?
Scott, yes, I do. Scott, were there any comments from the fire commissioners on this application?
Not on this one, no.
They meet the same.
Okay. So what I guess the comments that I have, and depending on what the rest of the board feels, is as I read the site plan, and there are utility workers, technicians that visit the site, and if you look at the directions, you've got to turn onto the property, go past the pet cemetery, go past the pond, go past the forks in the road. Eventually you'll get to a bend, and then you got to do this, and then you got to do that. What my question is for emergency vehicles, is the driveway very clearly marked of how to get to the tower. At each of those turns on the road, it should be a very visible sign for emergency personnel of which way they need to go. And then also, is the vegetation cleared on that road so that they can get an ambulance up to that tower if need be?
Short answer is yes. As far as I understand it, our construction managers have been out there obviously surveying this and taking a look at it. The more detailed answer is I have not looked at that in depth, but I certainly can and confirm, with our construction managers and make sure that everything is up to snuff as far as that. I believe there are obviously regulations to make sure that if something needs to be accessed, that's got to be clear on our access roads for all towers. Again, that's me being a little not 100% on that, but I will say I believe there is some sort of regulation that those have to be maintained because, as you said, they need to be accessible. So I can certainly get more detail if you'd like and provide that to the board.
Yeah, that's fine. I think maybe we'll just add that as a condition into the approval, if we so vote to approve it. Just looking at the length of the driveway and stuff, I think just to verify that everything is in place as far as signage and to make sure that the service road is accessible for emergency vehicles to get up there in case they needed to access a worker. So Scott, that's all I have on this.
It's a good one. I must admit, I did try to visit the site and I got as far as past the pond to a place where the road was blocked by a gate. Everything seemed open as far as I got. I didn't get up the hill, but I can't say it was extremely well marked as to which direction to go at every turn.
Okay. Well, the tower's been there for a few years, and I guess it's just something that I thought of after reading the directions. It was like, and it's quite a ways off the road. So I think that's a simple request to make sure that it's, heaven help that we ever need to, the fire department needs to go up and take care of a worker up there, but they can get there in a timely fashion and not get lost. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Anything else, John? You wanted to ask?
No.
Robert?
No.
Jean?
No.
Anyone else in the audience? Anyone on Zoom or remote access? Okay, I have nothing else. I propose we close the hearing. I make such a motion, we close the hearing. So Shelley, would you please poll the members?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Member Werner,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Ost,
Aye.
Rock.
Aye. And we will return for our deliberation and resolution. Papers to keep straight.
Would you guys like me to hang around for the deliberation, or is that something you guys kind of handle on your own?
It's Jeff speaking.
No, that is.
Oh, you don't need to. It's up to you if you want to hear what happens. But you really don't need to. I mean, we could have some questions that could wish you were here to answer, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. If anything, I've got a 3-year-old who enjoys bedtime, so I'm gonna take off, but please don't hesitate if any questions come up to just shoot me an email, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right, thank you all.
All right. So with that, we're ready to move on to the second public hearing. Shelley, would you read that into the record?
Do we need to read that again because it's tabled?
I would read it again just to make sure everything's clear.
Tabled application. Application 2022-02P by Cuca Studios Incorporated, requesting a site plan approval for a proposed addition to the existing building. The property is located at 1011 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road, Rush, New York, 14543, and is zoned limited industrial.
So again, I'll go through and read what we have. We had, as you just heard, this was a tabled application, so we have discussed this in the prior month's meeting. So we have a good leg up on that. There were a number of items put forward by MRB, the town engineers, and we will certainly cover all of those. Let me start with the short environmental assessment form. We did go through that a month ago and found some changes that were expected, and it looks like we have a updated form we just got tonight, and those all were made. So anybody disagree with that? I think everyone we talked about has been updated as requested. Okay, the Rush Fire District, we do have a response from them. We may have discussed this a month ago. This was based on a prior map, but their statement is, after review of the above application, the Board of Fire Commissioners has no issues or concerns with the application as written, but they do have a question: will sprinklers be installed? We have a representative here.
Yeah, no sprinklers will be installed.
Okay, in the addition.
Yes.
And it wasn't a statement that it's mostly a metal warehouse, so there's not going to be a lot of flammables in it.
But there's no flammable stored in the warehouse.
Okay. This is from the Department of Planning and Development, Monroe County. Subject parcel is within 500 feet of the town of Henrietta's municipal boundary. The clerk of the board should provide written notice to the neighboring municipality in accordance with General Municipal Law 239 NN. And I think, Shelley, you said you did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Applicants are encouraged to contact other county departments and non-county agencies to assure all permitting requirements for this project have been satisfied. The Monroe County Development Review Committee, DRC, has reviewed the subject application, have the following comments that need to be addressed prior to submission of final plans for approval. This is from the Monroe County Department of Health. The proposed project may require a backflow preventer. An engineer's report shall be submitted to the supplier of the water to determine the degree of hazard and the need for backflow prevention. Any comments on that?
Backflow for the stormwater,
I think it's backflow for the town water, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, they're not doing-
groundwater or
they're
the
not changing
stormwater?
anything.
Yeah.
It says, supplier of the water, so that must be in regards to the water authority's connection.
We're not adding any water to this addition.
Okay. Now, I will point out that there's no comment and no concern made about the septic system. I know on the drawings, there were a couple of comments that there is no increase in employment due to this addition. My comment is that never was our concern. The concern is the septic system adequate from when it was first installed in the 70s or 80s until your current employment rate? But since the Department of Health hasn't flagged that, I don't think we're going to either. Monroe County Department of Transportation, MCDOT, the Monroe County Geodetic Survey and Monumentation Network provides a framework, and it goes on and talks about plotting of monuments within their proposed construction area. By emailing full site plans request to the county surveyor. There's no monuments in the area, is there?
Not that I know of. We're not doing any
Right.
improvements in the roadway.
They're typically in the road right up there.
They would be close, right?
Yeah.
They're typically on the top of hills too. Okay, Monroe County Department of Environmental Services, Division of Pure Waters, project was not sent to them. Applicant should verify with this agency that they do not have jurisdictional requirements for the project. New York State Department of Transportation, New York State DOT, project was not sent to them for review. Should verify with this agency that none have jurisdiction requirements for this project. I believe it's a county road anyway. All right, yeah, it's a county road. So the New York State DOT wouldn't be involved. Okay. MRB, this is the town engineer's report. Proposed action appears to be an unlisted action under seeker. It is not recommended that a coordinated review be required for this project. The planning board should act as a lead agency to review the environmental impact of this action, and we will do that. Regarding the short environmental assessment form, it goes through questions 3A and 3B. It says the area of the proposed action should not be smaller than the area of the physical disturbance. That is one of the things that was fixed. Question 8B and 8C should both be answered no, as there are no public transit and walkways in the immediate area. That was changed. Question 14 should also include suburban as a typical habitat types that occur on or are likely to be found on the project site. That was checked off correctly on the revision. And question 17 and 17B should be checked yes, as there will be additional stormwater runoff as a result of this project. That, in fact, is one of the more important aspects of the project is the stormwater management, and we'll get into a bit of that. Let's hold off on that for now, though. General comments. On December 9, 2021, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted the application a 25-foot variance from required 140-foot setback from the center line of the County Road 67, which is Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. All other setbacks are in compliance with the zoning code. It is recommended that an engineer's report be prepared to address the erosion and sediment control, stormwater management. This document should include supporting documentation from the New York State DEC Blue Book and Stormwater Management Design Manual. All planning board comments from the regularly scheduled planning board meeting should be addressed. Site plan review, the drainage, and again, we'll get into this in a bit. Let me read through most of these first. The drainage pond identified on the plans is not a typical pond design per the New York State DEC Stormwater Management Design Manual. This should be addressed in the engineer's report to show how stormwater pretreatment is performed and that there are all required aspects per the design manual. 7, it should be identified on the plans where the concrete base of the drainage swale begins and ends. All outlets should be stabilized with a gravel base. 8, based upon MRB Group's estimate, the existing stormwater pond is undersized to handle the increase of impervious surface, especially since the drainage swale has a concrete base. This should be addressed in the engineer's report and the site plans. Again, I know the more recent plans have a substantial increase in that stormwater pond. We'll get to that. The dimensions of the parking spaces should be included in the plans. The building plans and parking lot should be reviewed and approved by the town fire marshal to make sure that it meets fire code requirements. All off-site parking should be in compliance with 12057 of the town of Rush local zoning code. Provide a north arrow on the location map. Provide the size, material, and shape of the existing driveway culvert. Provide invert elevation at PI 0 plus 0.231. You'll have to explain what that is. Okay, so that's that. All right, so we will get into the, let's do it now. We'll talk about the drainage pond and that
Sure.
sort of thing. So we had a second set of plans. In fact, we got, I guess I got on the third set tonight.
I also prepared a hydrology study
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
we sized the pond right, when this, we check the sizing and prepare the whole hydrology report. So I can give that to the engineer and he can review it.
I don't expect you to digest all of that right now, but feel free to look at it. So what will happen if we get to a resolution is it'll essentially be conditioned upon MRB's approval of those calculations.
So essentially, all the remaining comments that I had in regards to the pond, yes, it was increased. We ran some rough calculations ourselves. The pond size now is looking like it's adequately sized. Once we get through here, I don't think we're having any issues with it. But basically, you know, it was referenced on the plan of year storm that's capable of doing, but until I see the calculations, I can't really confirm whether those numbers were adequate or not. That was really my only concern. At a quick glance, it seems to be correct at this point. And from these revisions, it looks like my comments have been addressed. Regarding anything in regards to the seeker. Silt fences and those items have been added to the plans adequately enough that I'm satisfied with that as well. But yeah, just as it wasn't a standard pond design until I see the actual calculations for it. That's simply what my concerns were. So if you want to make that a condition of the approval, I have no issue with that and can get a response fairly quickly.
So the good news is you've come a long way. And we don't have the level of concerns that we previously did. Was there a parking size listed on the
Yeah,
map?
we listed it on the plans for you.
Okay, on these latest plans?
Yeah. Spelled it out. We also checked the parking code and we're actually 3 times the amount of parking that we need.
Yeah, I saw your calculations, so that they look fine.
10 by 20.
I see too from, I just wasn't able to find the fire department's comment letter previous or before tonight, so I assume that's been satisfied as well.
Oh, can we say that again?
The fire department has
Fire-
taken a look at that, so.
Yeah.
That's also satisfied.
Okay.
A question.
Go ahead, Carl.
Actually, two questions. It's just on the COO2 drawing, the proposed site plan continued. Just I was a little confused because the medium stone seems to go all the way to the bottom of the detention pond. And yet in your plan, I don't see that that limit put out here. So I don't know if that was for the,
We put it on the slopes. The
Right.
detention pond goes a little deeper in the slopes.
Okay.
So we mainly keeping the slope erosion down. Because you got sheet flow coming off the parking lot right
Yeah.
over into the pond. And we use the rock to keep that erosion down. And then we have the rock right at the bottom of that drainage swell that we have coming around the building.
Yeah.
So that reduces the erosion there.
I think what confused me is you label, you call out as NISDOT medium stone. It sure looks like NISDOT heavy.
Medium stone's about a foot in
Yeah.
diameter. So we're talking the state DOT.
Right.
Medium stone.
62004.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're familiar with it.
Oh, yeah. So,
What they call light stone, that's only boulders, cobbles.
the only other question I had, again, a little bit of confusion on the same site plan, there's an area of outdoor storage on all items. And it's an area that goes all the way to the pond and to the building. And then on the next plan for erosion control and sediment, it shows the proposed construction entrance, which goes right through the storage area.
The storage area is a temporary storage area.
Okay,
It's
I-
gonna be gone.
okay, that's all
They're
that,
only storing it while until they build the building. Then
Okay. But it just seemed, if there's a construction entrance to build a building and you're storing materials,
No, they'll have to move it out of the way.
okay. I'm just, just saying, a little
Yeah,
confused on the plan, that's all. And that's all I have.
Jeff Werner on the Zoom, do you have anything?
No, Scott, I have no further questions on this applicant. Sounds like town engineers got everything under control with this.
Okay. You do show the dumpster location I see on the map. That's to the west of the front of the building, but behind the front of the building.
That's the place we decided would be if that's
Yeah.
out of the way.
Yeah,
it's Still accessible.
I like it. I'm just saying that
Oh,
if I could rewrite the code, and I will try to, it will state that dumpsters have to be behind the front line of the building, and that's where you're showing it.
Yeah, I don't think it's good to advertise your dumpster.
You're right. But quite a few businesses do. And I also want to point out that there's a rather obscure part of our code that requires a 20-foot landscaped mall along highways, along the roads. So I believe your retention pond is in that, right? And I'm not objecting to that. I'm just saying there will be an expectation that that pond be maintained, not grown up with weeds, because it's part of your front landscaping. Okay.
I believe that would be,
Yeah.
that could be made a condition.
Yeah, I'll write in something like that. I think that's all I have. Anything else, John or Robert? Gene, any comments?
No.
Anyone else in the audience? Any questions, comments? Anyone on the phone or on Zoom?
No.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion that we close the hearing.
I'll
Have a
second
Member Werner,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Ost,
Aye.
Chairman Strack.
Aye. Okay. Now, our applicant for Crown Castle is no longer on the phone, I believe. So I don't think there's any requirement that we do the deliberations and resolutions in the same order. So why don't we move right into Cuca Studios? We'll get that out of the way for the folks who are here.
That's fine.
First thing I think we need to do is go through the part 2 of the environmental assessment form. So I will do that with the members. Number 1, will the proposed so we've gone over the part 1 that was provided by the applicant, has been updated. So based on that information, we'll go to part 2, will the proposed action result in material conflict with adopted land use or zoning regulations? No or small impact
No.
may occur, moderate to large impact may occur. I presume that's small.
I'd agree.
Agree?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, that's small. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? No or small impact may occur. Is that fair?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
The proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact may occur.
Yes, no,
Okay.
I agree.
Will the proposed action have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact may occur. I think that's correct. Agreed.
I agree.
Agree.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? That's a no.
I agree.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Agree.
Thank you. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the energy and Will the proposed action cause an increase in use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact, I would think.
Yes,
Yes, correct.
Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? There's no connection to the warehouse, I don't think. Public-private wastewater treatment facilities, I think both of those are no. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact.
I agree. No or small.
Okay.
Agreed.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? I think the answer there is no or small impact. I agree.
Agreed.
Okay. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? Now, keep in mind that there's a major activity here to provide that swales and retention ponds. So I think there the answer after all of that is no or small impact may occur. If you agree, but I think that's something we might want to note on the part 3. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? I think the answer there is no as well.
I agree.
Agree.
So part 3 states that for every part 2 that answered moderate to large impact may occur, we essentially have to fill it out and explain why we don't think it's a problem. We had none of those. However, just to be complete, I will write in building addition and parking lot do provide substantial stormwater runoff. But impact is mitigated by a substantial stormwater and retention pond, stormwater system and retention pond.
Scott, could I make a comment here? I guess you're using the word substantial. I see it as a moderate or moderately substantial. Overall, it's a pretty small project compared to what could be going in, or even the overall off the industrial park that's there. So this is a limited site. So I mean, I guess maybe you see substantial different than I do, but I see it as,
Yeah, I have no trouble changing that to moderate. I was thinking in terms of the specific lot it's on, it's substantial. In terms of the greater picture, you're right.
It's just an increase in impervious surface. And, yeah, so it just changes the characteristics of it.
Okay. So check this box if you have determined based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Do we agree to that?
I agree.
Okay.
Agree.
Okay. I'm just going to take your time and fill this out right now. Name of lead agency is Town of Rush Planning Board. Date is 4/19/2022. Name of representative is on the name tag in front of you. Okay.
Do we need to pull the board for that? Or,
It'll be a part of the final resolution. Thank you, but thank you. So it's all blended into one. Anybody have any other comments or questions? Ready for the resolution?
No.
All right. I make a motion to adopt the resolution, whereas the planning board of the town of Rush has examined application 2022-02P submitted by Cuca Studios Incorporated, requesting a site plan approval for a proposed 60 by 100 addition to the existing building with associated increased parking lot. The property is located at 1011 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road, Rush, New York, 14543, and is zoned LI Limited Industrial. And whereas the planning board has examined the application, maps, and other materials filed with the application, including the short environmental assessment form, and all having reviewed all current site plans, building plans, environmental plans, and reports, comments, and reports from town professional staff, the public, and other interested and involved agencies associated with the application, including comments from the Monroe County Department of Planning and Development's April 14, 2022 review. And whereas a public hearing on the application was held on March 22, 2022 and April 19, 2022, notice was posted as required by law. And whereas all persons at the hearing desired to speak on the matter were heard, all correspondence on the matter was read, and all comments and statements that were received during the public hearing and or at other duly held meetings of the planning board were considered by the planning board. And now therefore be it resolved that the planning board determines that this is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, Article 8 of the Environmental Law, and the regulations adopted pursuant thereto at 6 NYCRR Part 617 as amended collectively seeker. And it is further resolved that the planning board has considered the significance of the project by reviewing and examining the EAF, including completing the analysis for parts 2 and 3 of the EAF for the project, which EAF is hereby approved, adopted, incorporated herein by reference. And it is further resolved that the planning board has considered the criteria set forth in 6 NYCRR Section 617(7)C thoroughly and analyzing identified areas of relevant environmental concern, and hereby finds for the reasons set forth in the completed EAF that the project will result in no significant adverse environmental impacts requiring a preparation of an environmental impact statement, and thus issues a negative declaration for the project. And it is further resolved that upon consideration by the planning board of the factors set forth under Section 12069B3 of the town zoning law, including location, arrangement of buildings on the property, adequacy, type, and arrangement of trees, shrubs, or others landscaping constituting a buffer between this and adjoining lands, adequacy of separate disposal of stormwater and sanitary waste, and protection of adjacent properties, the planning board grants site plan approval. And it is further resolved that the site plan approval is granted subject to the following conditions. 1, no work is to commence until the applicant obtains a building permit from the town of Rush. 2, the applicant must meet any other applicable town building and inspection requirements. 3, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the town engineer as indicated in the town engineer's letters dated February 28, 2022, March 25, 2022, as revised on April 18th, 2022, including calculations to verify sizing of retention pond. The applicant obtains approval of the town engineer and the planning board chair. That means signing the drawings. The applicant shall have paid application fees consistent with the planning board fee schedule approved by the town board on January 12, 2022. And Shelley, I believe they have done that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The town engineer shall verify that stormwater drainage facilities, parking lot, and other site features are consistent with approved site plans prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy. That means there will be inspection of the site before the CFO is issued. The applicant, 7, the applicant shall maintain the retention pond and other locations within 20 feet of adjacent roads as part of the landscaping required by section 120-60 of the town code. And 8, waste dumpsters or containers shall be located behind the front line of the building as shown on the site plan map, and there shall be no other outside storage. Okay. Any changes or corrections to that from our members?
Just to clarify, is that permanent outside?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah,
Did you have in there obtaining a building permit?
yeah, that was one of the first ones. Thanks.
So that, the condition that you said, certificate of occupancy, falls under
Yeah, so
his,
it's-
so we shouldn't have it as a condition for the planning board, right?
That, the C of O statement was that the site is to be inspected to make sure that the parking lot and retention pond swales are installed properly before they get a C of O on the building.
So. But my question is, the building inspector issues the C of O,
Correct.
so,
So he needs to check with the town engineer before he issues that.
okay.
Anything else? Do I have a second?
Second that?
Member Werner,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Ost,
Aye.
Chairman Strack.
Aye. So congratulations. You're not quite completed. You do have to manage the contingencies, and to the point that both John Hinman from MRB Engineering and I signed the drawings. But congratulations.
Now, on that note, once you give me the okay on what the pond is, I can give you final plans to sign. What would you like for final plans?
Well, we use the Mylars, all right?
Mylars?
And the calculations were, can you get those submitted digitally?
Probably, I think, yeah.
If it's the only copy I have, I can send it.
Well, it's the only copy I have right now, maybe, if you need it digital, let me know.
I think the town needs it.
Oh, okay, I'll issue one digital copy.
By the way, we don't need the fire marshal's signature.
All
We've
right.
covered that, so you can
Take
take
that
that off. That'll make it a little bit simpler. Normally would have some road person, whether that's state or local, whatever, and would have the Department of Health, but that's not needed either in this case.
Okay.
Is it Mylar, Mylar sepia?
Excuse me?
Mylar or Mylar sepia?
I don't know what it is.
We just call it Milo.
Because sepia is a thinner.
Okay.
30 years.
We're the only ones that use it.
It's really tough and it's
Past the ink
clear.
pens.
Yeah.
So how will we know when the final drawings, when we can go get them? Somebody knows.
You should be able to tell us fairly quickly.
Yeah,
on
you'll,
that.
you'll get an email from me and I'll copy it.
And then
Sure.
I think you can go, we'll send in final plans for permit.
Uh,
How do you handle
I mean,
signatures?
we need to issue these plans, the signed plans to get the permit.
The building permit, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So once you got the signed plans, then we can take it to the,
Yeah, so from my standpoint, Shelley lets me know when the plans here, I'm the last to sign, so John will sign them first. Shelley will let me know when John signs them and they're here and I'll come in and sign them.
you'll verify that they're okay to send in, and then we'll get the plans into you, and then.
I'll send you everything that happened tonight in hard copy tomorrow, so you have it in front of you.
Sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies.
Took a while, but
Have a good evening.
I think everybody, my name is Jean too, and I was said, Jean, do you agree? Hi, thank you.
Did Jeff hang on for one more?
Yeah, I'm hanging on.
Strock, do you have that, what you read this evening?
yeah, it's
You
right
can
here.
email that to me tomorrow? or
Um,
tonight?
Yeah, I can do that. Or I can give it to you, make a copy. It's part of it's handwritten. It's probably better if I type it for you.
You speak a lot faster than I can type.
I'm not surprised.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we'll go into the discussion of the Crown Castle. telecom tower.
Okay.
We'll go over the EAF first. Okay, same deal. So we had the part one, questions, my questions are about the Eagle and the SHPO, and neither of those is any significance, and makes sense that that's the case. So we'll go to part two. Number one, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? I think the answer is no, given there's already a tower there.
Yep, I agree.
Agree.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the land? No, or small impact.
I agree.
Agree.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No, or small impact.
I agree.
Agree.
Will the proposed action have an impact on environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No.
No, I agree.
Will the
Agree.
proposed action result in an adverse change in existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No.
No, I agree.
Yep, agree.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No.
Agree.
Will the proposed action impact existing public or private water supplies, public-private wastewater facilities? No, because there are none.
Right.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No.
Agree.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources such as wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? And I think Carl recognized that even the right of way for the easement for the conduit doesn't run through a wetland, and they're going to try not to disturb anything using existing conduits. So I think that's a no, or small impact.
Great.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No, or small impact. Agree.
Agree.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No, or small impact. Okay.
Great.
Agree.
Okay, so I don't think we have any special comments to be made here. Pretty much staying within the existing rights of way and easements. Check this box if you have determined based on the information analysis above and any supporting documentation that proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Agreed?
Agree.
Agree.
Okay, so Town of Rush Planning Board, 4/19/22, Scott R. Strock, Chair, and I'll sign it. Okay. Any more comments from the board members, other folks?
Just I guess a clarification. Typically, if a archaeological or something is flagged, or a bald eagle, shows up, don't we usually get something from Fish and Wildlife as well as from SHPO, just a letter saying
I've never seen one sent.
with this type of situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen one sent to us that we didn't ask for.
You can request it of the applicant.
Yeah.
They can file and report the project. to
We've done that for, the tier 3 solar, which cover 25 to 50 acres.
Yeah.
Something like this.
So they're really not changing anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Considering this is all within existing easement areas of disturbance that have previously been evaluated under the same scrutiny, I don't have a high level of concern
Okay,
for something like this.
just asking the question.
It's just you are allowed to ask for it if it is a concern.
Okay, no need.
Okay, there's nothing else, then I think I'm ready to make a motion for this resolution. Whereas the planning board of the town examined application 2022-03P submitted by Crown Castle, the applicant, requesting site plan and special permit approval for the installation of 3 antennas and ancillary ancillary equipment on an existing cell tower, as well as installation of a 5x7 ground equipment pad within the existing compound. The property is located at 145 West Rush Road, Rush, New York, 14543, and is zoned R30. And whereas the property is located in R30 district of the town, consistent with section 12064D, 2A4 of the zoning law, and whereas the planning board has examined the application, maps, and other materials filed with this application, including the short environmental assessment form, and all having reviewed all current plans and reports, including comments and reports from town professional staff, the public, and other interested and involved agencies associated with the application. And whereas a public hearing on the application was held on April 19, 2022, and notice was posted as required by law. And whereas all persons at the hearing desiring to speak on the matter were heard, all correspondence on the matter was read, and all comments and statements that were received during the public hearing and or at the duly held meetings of the planning board were considered by the planning board. And now therefore be it resolved that the planning board determines that this is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, and the regulations adopted pursuant thereto at 6 NYCRR Part 617 as amended collectively, seeker. And it is further resolved that the planning board has considered the significance of the project by reviewing and examining the EAF, including completing the analysis for parts 2 and 3 of the EAF for the project, which EAF is hereby approved, adopted, incorporated herein by reference. And it is further resolved that the planning board has considered the criteria set forth in 6 NYCRR section 617.7C, thoroughly analyzing the identified areas of relevant environmental concern, and hereby finds, for the reasons set forth in the completed EAF, that the project will result in no significant adverse environmental impacts requiring the preparation of an environmental impact statement, and thus issues a negative declaration for the project. And it is further resolved that upon consideration by the planning board of the factors set forth under section 120-69D of the town zoning law, the planning board grants a special permit based on the following findings. The proposed use complies with requirements of the town zoning law. 2, the granting of the special permit and installation of antennas, ancillary tower, and ground equipment onto the existing cell tower will not endanger public health, safety, or general welfare of the community. The project proposes no change to structure height or ground space, and compound improvements, including ice bridge and equipment platform, will all be contained within the existing fenced lease space. 3, the cell tower is already existing and in harmony with existing development and will not discourage appropriate development or use of adjacent land or impair the value thereof. And it is further resolved that upon consideration by the planning board of the factors set forth under section 129-69B3 of the town zoning law, including the findings set forth above, the location arrangement of the existing cell tower facilities and buildings on the property, adequacy, type, and arrangement of the sufficient buffer between this and adjoining lands, and protection of adjacent properties, the planning board grants site plan approval. And it is further resolved that the site plan and special permit approval is granted subject to the following conditions. No work is to commence until the applicant obtains a building permit from the town of Rush. The applicant must meet any other applicable town building and inspection requirements. The applicant should obtain all other necessary local, state, and federal permits and approvals required for the project. The applicant shall provide a site restoration plan for disturbance of any property, subject to review and approval by the town engineer and town building inspector. The applicant shall meet all requirements of town engineer as indicated in the town engineer's letter dated March 24, 2022. The applicant is prohibited from making any change to structure height or ground space of the existing cell tower facility. The applicant shall comply with all applicable terms and conditions of the original town approvals of the existing cell tower facility. The applicant shall comply with requirements of section 120-64F of the town zoning law, including without limitation, section 120-64F, requiring the applicant provide the town an updated bond or other form of security to be determined by the town in an amount sufficient for the faithful performance of the terms and conditions of this approval, and the town zoning law, and section 120-64F10 regarding the filing of an annual report with the town clerk and town supervisor, evidencing compliance with its maintenance and procedures and record system. and that the telecommunications tower and accessory facilities or structure is not a hazard or a threat of a hazard to the health and safety of the public. 11, final plans issued for construction should be provided to the town and include a New York professional engineer stamp, subject to review and approval by the town engineer and town building inspector. 12, past in section, I will add that this item 12 I'm about to read was something we added to the previous Crown Castle site plan and special permit. 12, past inspection reports dating back to 2007 shall be provided to the town clerk and town supervisor. 13, application fees paid shall be consistent with the planning board fee schedule approved by the town board on January 12, 2022. And again, Shelley, I think it's been indicated that that has happened, right? Okay, we decided we don't need an ag data sheet. So it comes down to this emergency access, particularly for an ambulance that Jeff Werner brought up.
Yeah, Scott, I've got some wording here. I mean, maybe we can figure it out. But how about a biannual inspection by the Rush Fire Marshal for driveway width clearance for emergency vehicles, and that the driveway is well marked to guide emergency vehicles to the tower from West Rush Road. If there was I mean, due to the length of that driveway, that driveway could grow in over years and nobody really pay attention to it as long as they get a pickup truck up in there to do whatever they need for the tower. But it's a couple thousand feet off the road, I believe, or close to it.
It's substantial. Like I said, I drove way back in there and only got to a fence, and that isn't even where it began to go up the hill and around the corner. I guess what is it we could say that, I don't know that we can require the town fire marshal to inspect it. Sounds like a good
That's what we
idea.
were just talking about. Maybe during construction or prior to construction.
The fire marshal would have to agree to it.
Okay. So prior to construction, town fire marshal shall determine that the full length of roadway,
Adequacy for emergency access.
from West Rush Road is adequate for emergency vehicle access. Okay, so number 14, prior to construction, town fire marshal shall determine that the full length of roadway from West Rush Road is adequate for emergency vehicle access. Now, that doesn't address your sign concern.
Could we, so in that, what you just wrote, Scott, could we also just add some wording in there that proper signage or directional signage?
I'd say half or 2/3 of that roadway is used for other residences. So I don't really know who owns it, and if Crown Castle even has the ability to put up signs. It's a really good question.
Well, so I can answer that is, I believe the driveway goes through the Pet Cemetery property, the Ranchana property. Bruce Martin is the person that owns the property where the tower is, and Bruce has a right of way through Ranchana to get to his property, and then the tower driveway goes off of Bruce's to continue to the tower.
Is that where
So it's an easement. It's basically Bruce has an easement off of West Rush Road to get up to his driveway to his property through Pollyanna's property, and then it goes, and then it's all Bruce's property from there. But either way, even if there's an easement there should be proper signage directing people to where they need to be.
Yeah, I think any signage that in the kind of informal directions that were part of the application, they were utilizing signs for other people's houses, I think, is what they were using. So it is pretty obscure, frankly. I'm not sure how would we word such a thing. I mean, I suppose we could require Crown Castle to at least ask about putting up directional signs.
Is this strictly during construction?
Yeah, well, I think Jeff is suggesting forever.
No, I would like to see them up permanently, because if there's a worker up there 2 years from now that again has a medical issue or something like that, those signs need to be in place to direct the fire personnel, the emergency personnel, to get up there.
Yeah, but I guess the issue, right, is that the cell company, Crown Castle, doesn't, or whomever is the owner of the property, doesn't necessarily own the entire access road to them. So they can't be ordered from condition to put something else unless they have permission to do so.
Yeah, did you hear that, Jeff?
I did not. It was broken up, Scott. I'm sorry.
The issue that, as I see it, is that the Crown Castle or whomever owns the cell tower, and we have authority over as part of this planning board process, they don't necessarily have the authority to put signs up along the access road unless they have ownership of that property that they're able to do so. So we can't necessarily require them to do something that they don't have permission to do or would otherwise need permission to do.
Well, I guess the way I see it is the original cell tower would have had to have an easement on Bruce's to be able to use that driveway to get up through there. So I would say then we can always table it. We can table it and go back to the original application and take a look at who has jurisdiction over the driveway.
It's gonna get automatic.
I think what I'm asking for is pretty simple, to have some signage up to lead people up to the tower. That's all I'm asking. I think it's a pretty simple ask.
I think about all the utility substations that I'm working with. There's usually a sign, very little signage, only a sign at the fence that tells you that it belongs to the utility. So they only, as far as I understand, only own that property of the fence line, or that's what shows up on the map, that there's everything else is by easement. So I mean, where is the gate? Is that the residential driveway that
Yeah.
splits off?
Once you're well back in there, there's residential driveway that's kind of straight ahead, and there's a road that bears to the right up a hill, and as soon as you make that corner, there's a gate there.
And that's the junction box where they want to tap in or run. So I guess, could we say just have a sign at the gate that this is access to the cell tower?
If that would be a good compromise, I think. I mean, we can require Crown Castle to get back to us on what they're able to do, but I'm not sure what else we can require.
Scott, do you remember, was there a address sign at the road for 145? Because we do have we not also been putting this as a condition that the signage be make sure that the house numbers are at the road or in the, clear visibility for emergency personnel?
I followed the directions that were in miniature writing somewhere in the application.
I believe 911 requires it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Didn't John Limbeck I'm sorry to interrupt, but didn't John Lembeck do something after the first of the year? Didn't he say he was going to make that a condition of signing off that house numbers be present? So if the if 145 is the address and that's out at West Rush Road, that at least gets them up the driveway to where the road splits by the pond, by the big oak tree, past the old rickety fence, and then they can figure out where to go from there.
Oh, should that be a condition of the permit or a condition of the planning board?
I think that proper signage should be a condition of the planning board.
I think 145 was out by the road, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, all right. Well, who just asked that? I guess I see it as two things. The house numbering, that's going to be an issue. That's up to John Lembeck. That'll be a condition of the permit from John Lembeck that the number be out by the road. But as far as signage, I feel that's going up the driveway. That's condition of the planning board.
It was in here. I just can't find it.
I don't see it as a huge hurdle. I mean, the cell tower's been there for a number of years now. And that's why I thought about the overgrowth of the road and things like that. You know, how has the road grown in at all? And I don't know. I haven't gone up there to the tower. I have no need to. But it was just a thought through this process that it'd be a good time to readdress it and clean it up if need be for the future.
I don't think we have, like we were talking about, have the ability to dictate as far as signing, but can we put it in as a provision to facilitate emergency access to the site? And then they can say, this is what we're going to do that.
Yeah, vague about it and allow them to fill in the blanks for us on what they can do.
Well, I think we're a little bit tied here as far as saying you have to provide signing because that it's a private drive. They have easements. We really don't have the ability to say you have to. But I think if we ask or just say there's a provision to direct emergency vehicles to the site, that gets at least the burden back on them to address it.
Is this something we can put on the building inspector? What I'm thinking of something like Crown Castle shall provide to the building inspector prior to issuance of a building permit, their plans for keeping the access to the site feasible, or whatever the word would be, for emergency vehicles. Is that rational?
I don't have a problem with that. It's gonna be in John's discretion to enforce that, but.
I don't know if they're just pickup trucks that go up there to do the maintenance or they're actually utility trucks. Some of those utility trucks are just as big as emergency vehicles.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have pretty substantial trucks getting up there. I don't know what they use to get that equipment way up 100 feet in the air.
And I'm sure that this roadway in some respect is what Crown Castle's responsibility is governed by some federal regulation.
Yeah. Well, again, I could only see from the gate, maybe a quarter of the way up the hill, and it goes, because it circles around. But it looked very open from what I crudely remember. Like it really was well maintained, and that doesn't surprise me because they've got to have a capability of getting up there.
Especially whatever equipment to get up 44 feet.
And I mean, these types of projects are heavily regulated in terms of what they can and can't do, what they need to do.
How about this? The applicant shall provide to the town building inspector their process for keeping the access road clear and well marked for ongoing emergency vehicle access prior to issuance of a building permit. So I don't know what that will end up with, but it sounds like it has some teeth and it's doable. It doesn't drive any specific requirements other than,
Keeping John happy.
right. Good enough, Jeff? That the applicant shall provide to the
Well, it still doesn't address a sign, or some type of signage to say at the fork in the road, which way to go.
It says and well marked. So it says the applicant shall provide to the town building inspector their process for keeping the access road clear and well marked for ongoing emergency vehicle access prior to issuance of
Okay.
the building.
Okay, sorry, Sky, I missed the well marked. So, okay.
Problem. And again, that may be as strongly as we can word it. I think it's a good ad, Jeff. I don't mind at all. I hadn't thought about the extreme location of this thing. It looks like you could go cross country from 15 West Henrietta Road, and it would be a lot closer than going the way you have to get to it.
Well, and you know where the general vicinity of the tower is, that's fine. But if it's treed and you get up in there, you really probably can't see the tower from the driveway. Once you're in that wooded area, you may or may not be able to see the tower.
You can't. No, you have no clue. At the gate, you can't tell which direction the tower is if you don't have a map. I mean, you know,
Right.
you know what's behind the gate, but you can't see where the road goes up the hill. Okay, with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're finished. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
Jeff was second.
Member Werner,
Aye.
Deputy Chair Ross,
Aye.
Chairman Strah.
Aye. Okay, Jeff, I would imagine you'd like to get off the phone and rest.
Yes, I apologize for that, but boy, whatever hit me here the last couple of days, I don't wish it upon anybody. I'll tell you that. So thank you for letting me, at least we got through the business, and I guess you guys continue on with the rest. So have a good night.
Thank you, Jeff, for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Question for Robert. So we have a lot of business we could go through and I could talk about, but there's only 2 out of the 5 of us here. I'm not sure if that adds any value. We couldn't
Can't take any action.
take any action. I will ask this other question. I do want to keep the flag lot code proposal moving along. I was invited and then disinvited to the zoning board meeting on Thursday. Came back and said they wanted to review it on their own without me there to influence them. So that's fine. But we talked about it briefly, went over it briefly at the prior meeting. Again, this is a flag lot code proposal. Rather than trying to do anything tonight with almost nobody here, is it okay if I resend it to our members and just ask for their individual comments by email? That isn't really taking any action. rather than waiting another month.
Let me run that by David. Yeah, obviously, the question is open meetings law and making sure that we're not having discussions as a board
yeah.
separately.
I mean, I could even go so far as to specify that I will send out a request with another copy of my proposal to all 5 members, but that asks them only to respond directly to me and not for, discussion amongst the group as a whole. And I could put everything together and then discuss it as a group at next meeting, for example.
Right, I would want to look at an advisory opinion from the open meetings law.
Okay.
To make sure that that was a way to go about doing that.
Okay,
Obviously, this isn't on an application or
Right.
something like that, but obviously, we don't want the board emailing together.
Okay.
Off
so get back to me.
the record. Yes, I'll get back to you.
And with that, I think I'm willing to give up on everything else I had here. Some of it was just going to be me describing the status of where these different activities were, rather than trying to do anything anyway. But given there's so few of us here, it probably doesn't make sense.
One thing, information, I sat in on I took a webinar on electric vehicle charging
Oh,
stations.
okay.
It was given by National Grid, and
Oh.
it was a pretty good presentation. So I think what I'd like to do for the next meeting is to do a short presentation prior to a suggested code and how that would work.
In May,
in May.
11 hours.
Yeah, we do have an application that was submitted for May. It is a 3-lot subdivision. Had some discussion with Robert and John about it already. It has some problems. So we're trying to run a trial with that of what we call a pre-meeting, where probably John or an MRB rep, myself, and the zoning board chair or a rep of the zoning board would get together with the town attorney, Robert, and the building inspector being optional. So that would be a good trial to run that on, but we don't have it scheduled yet. So Shelley tried to throw that at you. So if you could get John or whoever he wants as a representative, me and
I
Lori.
have to wait until the process is approved before I can do it.
Is that right?
Well, it's a new process.
Are you talking about authorizing MRP? What do you mean by process? Sorry.
The idea of having a pre-meeting
Right.
discussion, it's a new process that's being added. I have to wait for the-
I would say at this point, we're not really adding a process. We're just running a trial and see if it's something we want to do. I don't mind the town board having the ultimate say in whether we proceed. In fact, I even encourage that.
Well, the town board's gonna have to authorize MRP to be paid. I mean, that would be where I would think approval would have to come in. I mean, the town employees can meet to discuss things without approval of, without having the town board authorize a home resolution or something like that, but MRB will need to be authorized to do that. That's my understanding of what we talked about.
Yeah, I would think so. Because I don't know if we can bill that back to the applicant unless we,
That would be hard. Yeah.
so then it would have to go off of like a general engineering, which needs authorization of the town board to do.
I will say, there's been a lot of requests from this board and other people of your predecessor CHA's time previously without town board authorization. But, okay, no problem. Hey, what I'll do is I'll contact the applicant and say, these are your problems. And that's the way we'll handle it.
If you can take that back to the town board.
I
and
will,
just-
I'm
There's
gonna-
a number of items that probably need to go through. And just get the board to kind of authorize some of these things, because I think in the future, what we talked about is our goal is to make this process cleaner and smoother. But it as we discussed previously, pretty vital to making sure that the applicants can get everything clear and concise. It's just getting
Right before the meeting, if they have to adjust something, correct?
I would think it would add greatly to the efficiency of everybody involved and certainly to the overall application process.
So,
Whether it totally offsets the cost, I would think it would, but I have no guarantee of that.
yeah, I'm not certain. And then just to figure out how it would be. I don't know how that works, so how we can bill the applicant for it, even though it's directly related to an application.
Yeah, again, the fee schedule, I think would have to be obviously included in the fee schedule because they would apply. And at that point, they would have seen the fee schedule, which could say at that point that they're going to do a pre-application meeting, MRB's time and included as part of your general time of reviewing these applications. But I would just make
True.
a note as part of the, because when they, like I said, when they apply, they'll be submitting a fee and noting what the additional costs that will be incurred.
It could be added to the fee schedule, just like the proposal adds the after
Right.
construction inspection or
Right.
during the construction inspection
Right.
by MRB.
So for now, I guess we could just have an offline conversation
Yeah.
and get back to Sharaba.
Well, I
on
think
that.
we're good on this one. We've talked about it enough.
Yeah. But certainly if it's a more complicated application, I think it would be very helpful.
Well, it could be, this is just one. We could have a time when we have 3 or even 4.
Yeah.
Not common, but it happens. Okay. With that, anything else anybody wants to bring up? If not, then you'll get back to me on whether I can use
Yeah,
email
The
for,
flag, like,
even if it's individual to individual.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
get back to that tomorrow.
make a motion that we end the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Oh.
All in
We
favor?
can't stop. We can't stop. We don't have a quorum.
You don't have a quorum, you can't end the meeting.
We're
Sorry,
like,
guys.
we're like the Kingston Trio and the guy, we're like the Kingston Trio and the guy in the MTA who couldn't get off because he couldn't pay the fee, right?
That's right.
Right.
And there's no one on Zoom.
Looks like we're stuck here.
Everybody.